Recognizes the gentleman from Illinois, Mr. Roskam.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll yield myself such time as I may consume. Mr. Chairman, last night the President in this very chamber issued us an invitation. In that invitation, there were several opportunities, but two of them I'd like to highlight. One is, he said this. He said that he's willing to eliminate whatever we can honestly afford to do without. And I take the President at face value that he's interested in doing. The other thing that the President issued was an invitation where he said this. He said, in fact, the best thing we can do on taxes for all Americans is to simplify the tax code. Well, the law governing presidential election campaign funds and the presidential primary matching payment account is located in the Internal Revenue Code, which really inherently makes no sense. And I think during the course of this debate, Mr. Chairman, we're going to lay out the argument as to why the President's first point can be greeted and agreed to, that first goal, that this is simply something that we can do without. But let me make a couple of quick points. And I think it's important to recognize the irony of the statement of administration policy that was published on January 25th. And I'm reading in the third paragraph. He says, the administration, in criticism of this effort, says its effect would be to expand the power of corporations and special interests in the nation's elections to force many candidates into an endless cycle of fundraising at the expense of engagement with voters on the issues. How can that be, Mr. Chairman? President Obama, when he was a candidate in 2000 for the United States presidency, declined to participate in this fund, both in his primary and in his general election. And if President Obama is able to rise above that, I think other Americans can rise above that. Also, I'd just like to bring your attention sort of that same argument, and that is in a dear colleague that was sent criticizing this bill, said basically the same thing. By creating a viable alternative to private fundraising, the presidential campaign or the public financing system was designed to level the electoral playing field and ensure that candidates remain accountable to voters, not special interests. So does that mean implicitly, Mr. Chairman, that candidates who didn't participate in the program are somehow not accountable to voters? I think President Obama would say he's really accountable to voters. I reserve the balance.
Illinois has a minute and a half.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, Mr. Chairman, the minority leader was on the floor a couple of minutes ago, and I know the weather situation is urgent. I didn't want to prolong this drama, but it seemed to me to make the argument that this doesn't do anything as it relates to economic growth is just an incredible overstatement. One of the things that we continue to hear, and the President's own debt commission spoke eloquently about the nature of debt and the stifling nature of debt on the economy and the stifling nature of spending on the economy. And here the Congressional Budget Office says, without ambiguity, the Congressional Budget Office says, H.R. 359 would reduce direct spending by $617 million over the 2011 to 2021 period. This is an opportunity for us to take the admonition of the minority leader, to take the admonition of the President, to take the admonition of what the electorate told us in November, and that is to concentrate on ways that we can trim this government, the burden on the taxpayer that adds absolutely no value. There is not one member on this House floor, Mr. Chairman, that has defended the results of this system. I urge passage of this bill.